Hello and welcome to RC Flight Review. Today I thought I'd make a video on how to solder XT60 connectors, in case anybody wasn't sure. Now this process is going to be quite similar to soldering XT30 connectors, but I think there are a few key differences that might want to be pointed out. So what you're going to need for this is an XT60 connector, obviously. You're going to need some solder, you need a soldering iron, need some wire. Helping hands are actually quite useful. So your first step is, you can see those cups are pointed away from each other. So what I like to do is just take them and rotate them 90 degrees so that they're both facing towards you. This way it's going to be much easier to do both of them in the same run. Your second step is going to be to take the opposite connector and plug them both together. This is going to help keep the pins aligned even if the plastic in the connector starts to melt because of the heat from the soldering iron. Next step is going to be to put it into the helping hands. It's a bit of a tight fit, but it works. Now your next step is going to be to take a piece of wire, and if you've already got it connected on the other end, you're going to want to take a piece of heat shrink and put it on there before you start soldering it to your connector. Right now, I've got it free on both ends, so I don't need to do that right now. So your next step after that is going to be to strip your wire. Take wire strippers. You can also do this with wire cutters, but I like to do it with wire strippers because it's so much easier. Then you get your stripped end of wire. You're going to twist that. It's nice and bunched together. And then you're going to put that in your helping hands as well. Now you're going to want to get some solder. And at this point you're also going to want to turn on your soldering iron. I've got it set to 380 degrees Celsius. It's a little bit harder to tell, but I do have it set to 380 degrees Celsius. I recommend somewhere between 360 and 400. You're going to want to wipe off your soldering iron, make it nice and clean. There, nice clean tip. And then we're going to want to start tinning the wire. So we're going to tin the soldering iron. And then we're going to tin the wire by just letting the solder flow through the wire to the soldering iron. Remember, the solder is going to go to the heat. So put the solder in from one side and the soldering iron on the other side. It'll all flow nicely together there. Now, this is the key difference from soldering XT30 connectors, is if your wire fits in the receptacle in the cup, then right now you're going to take your wire and you're going to put it inside the cup there. Mine does. This is 14 gauge wire, so it fits perfectly fine inside the cup. This is going to make it a lot easier to solder. It's going to keep the wire nice and straight, and it'll all look really nice in the end. Now, after this, we're going to want to just start filling the cup with solder. So, we're going to want to melt the solder on the wire, and then just start feeding solder in so that it joins with the cup. You don't want a cold solder joint. That's never good, especially on high current connectors like these. There. Now at that point you're almost done. Once it cools, you can take it out of the helping hands. And you can see it's a very nice solder joint there. Now you can unplug the two sides of the connectors, and then you're just left with that. Now since I've still got that side open, I'm going to slide the heat shrink over. Now that we've got the heat shrink on there, we're going to use the heat gun and shrink the heat shrink. So now we got a perfectly soldered wire, and it's well insulated from the heat shrink. Okay, so for this next wire, I thought I'd show you it up close. So this is our wire in our helping hands, and our connector in our helping hands. And we're going to wipe off the soldering iron, and tin the soldering iron. And then just as before, we're going to tin the wire. Remember, the solder is going to go to the heat source, so bring in the soldering iron from one side and the solder from the other side. Make sure it's flowed in there. And then if your wire fits in the cup, just like last time, which mine does, because I'm using the same size wire. I'm going to put it in the cup. And then we're just going to start melting the solder and flow the solder together. Make sure to melt the solder that's on the wire as well, so that it all sticks together and sticks to the side of the cup as well. Yep. It's all flowed together. And now once that's cool and solidified, you can take it out of the helping hands. And just as before, we've got a really nice, strong solder joint. So that's all I've got to say about XT60 connector soldering. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them in the comments. And that's all for now. See you later.